Joining us this morning, newly elected President of the Management Association of the Philippines, Gigi Montinola. Good morning, Gigi. Happy New Year and congratulations.
Yes, good morning. Thank you.
Okay, so
Thanks for inviting me to your show.
thank you for saying yes. Gigi, we saw your inauguration speech yesterday. I noticed that you skipped Cha-Cha in your speech. I mean, you reiterated MAP support for Create Bill and ease of doing business, but left out charter change amendments.
Yes, we're a business association. We primarily comment on business-related matters. I saw a 2018 rather, MAP MBC statement which focused on the same thing, which basically said that the MAP was open to changes on the economic side.
And what's your take on calls to amend the Constitution to focus on economic provisions, as you mentioned, and easing foreign restrictions? I mean, what do you make of the timing? It's happening in the middle of a pandemic with a little over a year before the 2022 presidential elections. I mean, filing of COCs is going to happen this October already.
Well, you know, my view, as I mentioned in my remarks yesterday, our main task is to safely reopen the economy given the existing conditions. If there are potential additives like easing up on the economic provisions, then so be it. But I think in the end, as Secretary Dominguez also mentioned, we should just go with what we have at the moment. Buckle down, move forward, and just try to do our best to help our own businesses, MAP member businesses, reopen their businesses so that in turn they can help reopen the economy.
And speaking of reopening, Gigi, I'm sorry, I just have to push you a bit on this one. Do you think it's also time to open more sectors of the business environment here in the Philippines to foreign investors?
Yeah. I think it's a free country. I'm going to leave those thoughts to the experts. But as far as I'm concerned, free trade or freer trade, if you will, has always been beneficial in general, and we Filipinos all live here, so we know the lay of the land better than anyone who wants to come in. Of course, they've got more money, they possibly have more technology, but that's just something that we'll have to live with because I'm totally convinced that the Filipino can take care of himself or themselves.
Gigi, just one more thing. If you've been following the Cha-Cha conversation, it seems to boil down to a phrase which says, unless otherwise stated by the law, which means that there is no blanket removal of these foreign restrictions, but Congress will have, the leeway, the room to make changes when it sees fit. Do you think that sort of setup leaves so much room for discretion or for corruption even?
Well, again, as I mentioned, I stick to the economic side. I am not a politician.
Okay.
I feel that let's let the experts work in the areas they're in. I think we're on the economic side. We can give advice that's credible and probably good on the economic side, but I would not be the proper person to speak on the political side.
Okay. Gigi, let's move on to the other big task on your plate right now, the vaccination program. You did talk about it yesterday. What do you think is the role of the private sector in the vaccination program rollout with, government, national, and LGUs heavily criticized for being slow and inefficient? I mean, not a single Filipino has been vaccinated yet.
I'm going to take a practical side. We had so much bad news last year. And of course, the reality is we're not getting a vaccine as quickly as the more developed countries, or maybe the speedier to get approval countries. But in the end, by mid-year, we should have a certain amount. The Secretary of Finance says that we have enough money to pay for 53 million doses, most of which I think we will be able to get by the end of the year. So effectively, we're 6 months late. Now, with the approach being taken care of, there is a national government role of setting the policies. I personally think that getting the LGUs more directly involved will help. Now, what's the role of the private sector? The role of the private sector is effectively to safely reopen their businesses. So they're going to gauge what the rules are, and in cases where their companies are not in the priority lists, which means most of them, because the lists are really for the health workers, the frontliners, and the elderly, no? So then we'll see what we can do. There was a terrific effort by a group earlier this year, last year, on Project Ugnayan, where a lot of people just banded together on the private sector to do something. I'm hoping that we can do something similar to help our smaller members, because 50% of all the employees are in the retail and trade business, in agriculture and fisheries, and in construction. And those three have been badly hit. So if you can do anything to get those businesses to step up and revive, then it's going to be good for the country.
Gigi, I'm going to ask you point blank. Is MAP or are your members in talks with any vaccine producer at this point?
No. I think I've seen some of the statement. Remember, we're only 18 days or whatever, 12 days into our term. I'd like to manage through committees, which are going to make a study. We have a committee, actually two committees, investigating what are the possibilities. But again, we prefer to be what I call data-based, and we prefer to make the right decision after careful study. Of course, not too long, because we have to move. And I think probably we'll use the first quarter to figure out what we can propose. At some point in time, we're going to have a general management meeting, and we probably will have something on the role of vaccines as a topic. And by then, both our speakers and our members will be better prepared.
Gigi, have you heard of, this has been going around for quite some time, the scheme that if the private sector imports these vaccines, it's going to be a 1:1. For every one vaccine I import, I have to donate one to government or for public use?
Yes, that's fine. That's a good step. I think it was three parts. Government wants to help. They'll give the vaccine to anybody who's willing to take it, and obviously that's free. If they don't want to, that's their choice. On the private sector, certain private sector names, and they should be credited, have took the bold step of basically what I call pay two, get one, and that's so that they help their own employees, but they also help the less fortunate, no? So those are good. Now, the third step, obviously, if somebody comes up with a good idea, we're happy to review it and support it.
Gigi, aside from these two issues, what are the other concerns of your MAP member companies? I mean, we're nearly 1 year since the pandemic and the lockdown. I know that you're a former banker. You're now with the education. What are the concerns that you're hearing from your constituents?
Well, the most important part is to reopen the businesses. I see three levels of employees. The first, who were able to continue working, thank God. The second, I call it half work, half pay, because they only work 2 weeks and they only get paid 2 weeks. And the third are those who unfortunately were put on furlough. So our job is to get the second two back into more active status. The Secretary of Finance has said, sadly, there will be some businesses that will not be able to revive, but we would like to concentrate on that. As a point, I'm personally, I'm a bit tired of all the negative news on everything. We just have to, buckle down, move forward, think positive. Maybe we should start the year thinking of Skyway 3, the fifth reaffirmation of the ratings, and the fact that all of us are alive. As a matter of fact, an interesting statistic that I got from a senior government official is that the number of total deaths in the Philippines in 2020 is lower than in the previous year. Not because of COVID, but because of many other things, including, not so many cars on the street, not so many, arguments in bars, et cetera, et cetera. No? So let's think positive.
Okay, great to hear that you're more forward-thinking and very positive. But concretely, how do you intend to, move more people back into employment, into full-time work?
Well, the most important one is the public transport. Everybody I talk to, or many people I talk to, really see that a major constraint is the lack of available, reliable, and safe public transport. There have been a lot of improvement. And then we have items like the Skyway. Well, these are small stuff, but they work. Maybe some bicycle lanes someplace. That's the most important part. I think the good news is that all of the delivery people have been allowed to operate, so they're taking up the slack for a large part of the economy, whether it's for food or small items. But we just have to keep working on that. If you can free up public transport, then people can get back. Because it's ridiculous to be in a situation where you require private shuttles to pick up your employees to go to work.
Okay, and final question, Gigi. I know that for your leadership this year, the theme is the Great Reset, leading for the common good. Just an honest question here. How does the Great Reset look like this year for you?
I think positive. I think in the end, the health and the economic crises are obvious. I think the next three will need a lot of work, but they're good work. The environmental, the education, particularly with a severe learning crisis, and the social justice. In simple terms, we have to help the 48% who at least rate themselves poor, bit of values formation, etc., etc. So it's going to be a hard slog, but it's positive. On my side, I mean, I never thought that I would be in this role this year, but I'm here, and I'll just do my best.
Okay, and we are going to be watching. Thank you very much, Gigi, for joining us, and congratulations again. Good luck.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.